Hey folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
And Psychic Tom Padgett with his crystal ball and a new deck of tarot cards ready to go.
Well then, we have Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez lined up for an interview later on in the show, but we got a lot to pack in. We had a UFC card last weekend. And our former guest, Sergio Pettis, scored a big win on Bellator. And he's now going to be in a tournament they're going to have all next year, all around the world, to determine the winner of the tournament. And obviously the belt is going to be still in the line as well. So they're calling it the Grand Prix, another Grand Prix tournament. But anyway, as we predicted last week, Tom and I was pretty confident that Jose Aldo was going to get the job done against Rob Font, but oh boy, that was a barn burner. That was very back and forth.
Yeah, he was a machine.
Yeah, Rob was zombie fighting a little bit.
He was just like a tank. Yeah, I mean, I think Font won the first round. It was all Jose once he made the adjustments, and it was just. It wasn't so much Font was bad, it was just Aldo's not done, and he's only 34.
Yeah.
You know, we tend to think he's so much older, but he's not done yet.
I was very surprised by that asshole that scored at 50-45, though. I did not see that. I thought that Rob at least won one round. He did very well at certain points in the fight. He just couldn't defend himself when the big punches came, and he got rocked and he got knocked down, so... Obviously, there was some, points, 10-8 round there somewhere. But still, man, I could not believe that score was...
Okay, but 50, he gave him every round. I mean, I didn't see it like that. Like I said, I had Font winning the first, and maybe one of the others, you could have made a case. I don't think it could have, but it wasn't 50-45 or 44, whatever he had it.
No, it was ridiculous. But yeah, Aldo obviously had some very improved boxing. Font caught him a couple times. He never really had him close to being flat out knocked out. Just had him a little bit rattled, and had to make adjustments. That's all. And Rob's definitely going to improve from this. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, that was one of the most amazing main events I've seen in a long time. Thought it was really competitive. I actually thought Font was going to be much closer than that, but obviously Jose Aldo is such a big name, on top of having a good performance, they're going to give him credit just because he's a legend. So maybe that's where the 50-45 came from. But anyway, maybe that was a Brazilian judge. Who knows? The second fight, co-main event, was pretty entertaining. I picked that one correctly. Rafael Fiziev. I knew that he was going to get a knockout. I had him actually in my lineup as a MVP. And he got the spinning wheel kick. Took him 3 rounds, but 2 minutes and 20 seconds in, and took Brad Riddell out. Jamal Hill over Jimmy Crute. Also had him on one of my only winning card this weekend. I didn't get the big win, but I think the card that I needed to have Jose Aldo on, I had Rob Font on because he was cheaper. But the one that I could have never predicted, and it's like it always goes like this. Like the fights that I decide not to pick, and the guys that I would never expect to win those fights, like Clay Guida, I just would not pick because I would figure it would go to decision. And not only does it not go to decision, but I mean he comes back from basically getting pummeled the entire first part of the round, and takes over and ends up beating Leonardo Santos by rear naked choke in the second round, 1 minute 21 seconds in. Yeah.
You got to give Guida credit for his cardio.
Yeah. Unbelievable chain of events there. Chris Curtis, I was upset-minded on him. He was very cheap over Brendan Allen. I had him correctly picked on a couple cards. And he got the TKO pretty quickly in the second round, 1 minute and 58 seconds in. Alex Moreno, he was a big money guy to beat Mickey Gall. Everybody expected him to win, so he did, but not by knockout. So again, one fight I did not pick, Dusko Todorovic, and I thought to myself, that's probably going to be the one. Sure enough, that's the one you had to have. One round it took, just less than 30 seconds left in the round for him to take out Maki Pitolo. And then Manel Kape, I picked against him last time. I needed to pick for him, and he got the flying knee on my opponent, and his opponent that I had picked. And I had Zumagulov on one card, but I didn't have Kape on any of them. And Zumagulov had a great start, but Manel just talk about making adjustments, just made a couple little adjustments, was very calm, was shaking off the tough shots he was taking, and, kind of doing the psychological thing. And then he TKO'd him. He just put the right shots together, and Zumagulov just walked into him. And then Brian Barberena, I picked him on a card. I needed a knockout instead of a unanimous decision there, and he just had a tough time with Darian Weeks. I figured his crafty style and his old school approach would have him walking on water against a guy who didn't even have a UFC fight, was 5-0, but didn't have it. This was his first UFC fight, so I was wrong there. No knockout there. And then usually have to have the female fight. Well, not so much here. Cheyenne Blismus over Mallory Martin. That was a unanimous decision win there. So win, but not the knockout you usually need there. And then Claudio Puelles had a knee bar submission. He was actually a very cheap pick, and most people have him in their winning lineups. He beat Chris Gruchmacher by knee bar submission. And then the first fight of the night, Vince Morales over Luis Smolka. That was a knockout. And came from punches 2 minutes and 2 seconds in to that fight. And we'll have to check out Sergio Pettis here. Have you guys heard the newest story about Teofimo Lopez while we're waiting for the Bellator thing here?
I did not, Rich.
Well, it appears that
nothing new.
He is lucky that he did not die the other night in his fight a couple weeks ago. Apparently he had some air.
The weight cutting?
No, he had some air in his neck and chest area that was not supposed to be there. And one wrong punch in a certain area, it could have killed him, according to the doctor that checked him out after the fight. And this fight had been canceled and moved so many times that he was having some issues leading up to the fight with his neck swelling and stuff like that, and he's had asthma before, so he thought it was asthma. And they just said, we're going to play through it. We're not going to have this thing fucking canceled. So they played through it, and then the doctor was just like, wow, this guy literally could have died at any second in that fight. So, as much as, we could still make fun of him for trying to act like he won the fight, or his corner people, you just got to give him credit. The guy went in there against all odds there and survived. It's a miracle that he survived that fight. If you look up, like I did, I didn't really look it up, but it was kind of like a story that I saw on the alerts. And, I was pretty blown away by that. And, another impressive feat there on his behalf, even though it was a loss. Alright, and 1 second. And we had some big changes in the next fight of the century from Jake Paul. You guys have heard that, but Tommy Fury is out, speaking of injuries and health issues.
We were pretty loud the other night watching the one interview.
Yep. So now he's totally moved on, apparently, from Tommy. Tommy Fury is done, according to him. He says it's going to be more fun to, forget about him and move on than to reschedule it. And he called him an embarrassment to the Fury family. But apparently the story is that he had some kind of virus. I don't think it was COVID. It was something else, but it was like a lung thing, and he was coughing a lot in the gym. And then he came in one day less than full strength, and he went and sparred, and somebody broke his rib. So, pulled out of the fight, and now, lo and behold, Jake Paul's stalker, who has an I Love Jake Paul tattoo now, Tyron Woodley, is stepping in to do the rematch. And obviously there is not a no knockout clause this time, because Jake Paul has said that he's going to add $500,000 to Tyron Woodley's purse if he can knock Jake out. That's an interesting one. The fighter.
Well,
to be
all I could say, from my standpoint, from sitting through that one live, fool me once, shame on me. Or no, what is it? Fool me once, shame on you.
Yeah.
Fool me twice, shame on me. Yeah. I think I'll not be tuning in.
Well, yeah, I don't think a lot of people will be paying for that. But anyway, so we got Sergio Pettis. He fought last week. He actually landed a spinning back fist in the fourth round and knocked out Kyoji Horiguchi, but he was actually pretty much getting beat up to that point, even in his own admission. I didn't actually get to watch it. I taped it, so I'll have to watch it, but read about it. And then Jeremy Kennedy got a big win in the co-main event over Emmanuel Sanchez by unanimous decision. Josh Hill over Jared Scoggins by knockout. That was 56 seconds into the second round. Johnny Eblen beating Colin Huckbody by TKO 1 minute and 11 seconds in. Alexander Chablis over Bobby King by unanimous decision. Kai Kamaka III over John De Jesus by unanimous decision. And another De Jesus, back-to-back De Jesus fights. Vinicius De Jesus also lost by unanimous decision to Levon Chokeli. Justin Montalvo and Jacob Bond went to unanimous decision. Montalvo got the win there. Mike Hamill over Killis Moda by split decision. Spike Carlisle beating Dan Moret by technical submission from rear naked choke. That was 2 minutes and 58 seconds into round number 3. And then another unanimous decision in the first fight of the night, Kyle Crutchmer over Oliver Enkamp. And check out Box Rec. And I know we got the big card this weekend. Oliveira in the UFC fighting Dustin Poirier for, I guess, the belt, right? Title fight.
And the champ is the fight.
Yep.
How about that?
Yep.
How does that affect your fantasy thinking, Reg?
Of what?
Well, you like to do all those fantasy bets and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does what's your gut feeling on that? I think it was minus 140 Poirier is, I think.
Yeah, Oliveira is hot though. Like, I remember there was one fight.
Right.
I put a lineup together and I mistook him for Cowboy, the Cowboy Oliveira, the different guy. And I was like, oh, he hasn't been doing great lately. And I just, like, I didn't pick him on a single card. And he knocked the guy out in, like, first round. And I was like, oh, man, I don't even think I looked at his record. I just, it's mistaken identity case. But since then, I've been watching him. I've been watching him close. And he is not disappointed. Yeah, he's unbelievable. Like, because there's the Brazilian cowboy. I think his name is also Oliveira, right? The fuck's his
Right.
first name? So, yeah. I got duped. But anyway, I'm definitely looking forward to this one because, Poirier hasn't ever had it easy. He's always had to really struggle, except for maybe that last Conor McGregor fight. That was fairly easy for him. But, only because he had a fantastic training camp, I believe. And he's also trained by a Norwich graduate, believe it or not, Mike Brown. He didn't go through the Corps or anything, the Corps cadets, but if you go searching for his MySpace page, you can find pictures of him as a civilian at Norwich. It's funny. He wrestled too. I don't know if we ever crossed paths wrestling at all, but I don't even know if we were actually there at the same time. But it was close. We were like within a couple years of each other, if we weren't. But yeah, he wrestled as well there, I believe. That's probably why he went there, because they had a pretty good wrestling team. But if he didn't remember Rich Bergeron, he would remember Matt Bergeron, because that was the fucked up thing. It was the only team I ever had another Bergeron on the team with me. Because it's a more popular name up here in New England. Funny. Anyway, so we got Gilberto Ramirez coming up at 9:30. We're gonna call out to him, but we're gonna talk boxing until then, and then we'll get back to the UFC after we have our discussion with him. But he is 42-0, and 28 of those wins come by way of knockout. And he's a light heavyweight now, but he made his bones really at super middleweight.
Yeah, because he beat Jesse Hart out of Philadelphia twice.
Yep.
Competitive decisions. And I remember watching them both. Good fights. I knew he had that first fight when he had Jesse down in the second round. I mean, I thought it was all but over. His last fight, he fought Sullivan Barrera, a very, very tough Cuban fighter. And, the 4 rounds knocked him down. I think they said 3 times with body shots.
Right. And we actually had some fights on Sunday. Some pretty big fights last week. Gervonta Davis over Isaac Cruz. Even though it was a good win for Gervonta, he took a lot of criticism for not, absolutely demolishing Cruz, I guess. I don't know, that's what they wanted him to do. But he did get the win. And then Sebastian Fundora beating Sergio Garcia. Sergey Derevyanchenko losing to Carlos Adams. Eduardo Ramirez beating Miguel Mariaga. Anthony Yard lost as well over the weekend, Saturday, to Lyndon Arthur. And Devin Haney got a win over Joseph Diaz. It was fairly a one-sided fight, a little bit of a unanimous decision win for Devin. And Montana Love beating Carlos Diaz, and Montserrat Alarcon beating Sylvia Torres. It was on Saturday. And then this weekend, let's see, we got Saturday the 11th. We got Vasily Lomachenko in action, fighting Richard Comey. No relation to Jim, I believe.
That's actually a very good fight. Because, Comey got by Teofimo Lopez a couple of years ago, shockingly. But, he's no cheap date.
Right.
And that's one good test for Lomachenko.
And then Donnie Nietes fighting Norberto Jimenez. Nonito Donaire back in action, fighting Raymart Gaballo. And I'm still pissed at Nonito because I gave him my card in Vegas at an event, and he was just there as a photographer, a guest photographer. He wasn't even fighting or anything. Like, didn't have to worry about like being somewhere or whatever. He talked to me and everything for a couple minutes, but Never called me or anything, but I gave my card the same day to Teddy Atlas. And guess what? Teddy Atlas called me like off the hook, even though my phone was set to go to answer machine immediately. And he left me like 7 messages to get this interview done. And we did it. So, fuck you, Nonito Donaire. I still hope you win, but, you owe me an interview. Anyway. Yeah, I hold a grudge. I almost lost my hat that day because it was so windy, too. Freaking. We were on the top deck of the Cosmopolitan, the pool deck. I think it was the one and only fight they ever held there. I believe one guy in the corner actually did lose his hat right off the side of the building. Anyway. Brandon Lee also in action against Juan Heraldez. John Riel Casimiro fighting Paul Butler. And Dmitry Bivol fighting Umar Salamov. That's going to be big in the light heavyweight picture. And it's actually going to play into our interview here with Gilberto. Because, it's...
Yeah, Gilberto was calling him out.
Yep.
He's going for the top. Pretty impressive.
He wants the big guys. Conor Benn fighting Chris Algieri this weekend. It's December 11th. It's a big fight weekend there. Big fight day. And then the next Friday, we've got John Scully's boy in action. Archer. Beterbiev fighting Marcus Brown.
That's right. Yeah, I remember John was telling me.
Oh, what is it?
Who's he fighting again? I remember John was telling me.
Oh, it's, let's see. Marcus Brown.
Okay. Brown. I know the name. I can't say I know much about him. I've seen him fight. I don't know if that's a stay busy fight. Gets ready, waiting for, I think, Joe Smith or, possibly Canelo.
Right. Yeah, we'll see. But we'll definitely, hopefully John actually gets to go to this one. The COVID situation. I don't think he missed his last one, I believe, because of that. But
right.
Hopefully John will go to this one and we'll get the inside take. Good stuff. But anyway, we're going to call Gilberto early. We're about a minute early, but hey, let's do it. We'll get to talk some light heavyweight action. Keep it on the same subject. I'll have to ask him about Beterbiev too.
That'd be a good fight.
John Scully's got the numbers, according to Mike Tyson.
I'm sorry, but the person you called has a voicemail box that has not been set up yet.
Uh-oh.
Goodbye.
Unset mine.
That's not your message. Well, see, at least it's not one of those voice messages that will read back the number to you. Oh.
Yeah, I know. I think the last thing you want to do is put it on the air.
Broadcasted his number to everybody. Gilberto.
I'm sorry, but the person you called has a voicemail box that has not been set up yet. Goodbye.
See ya.
Yeah.
Give him a few minutes.
Complications. Well, I'm going to have to, tip the cap to technical difficulties again. Hello? Gilberto?
Yes.
There he is. All right. Well, we've got Tony the Tornado on the call. And my name's Rich.
What's up, Tom?
And we also have the psychic, Tom Paget. So if you need your crystal ball read, he can tell you.
My crystal ball says good things, Gilberto. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
So we know you're an undefeated fighter, really focused on, staying that way. But you're also, we just were talking about it, calling out some of the biggest names in your division. Tell us, what makes you that type of guy where, you're just going for the best no matter what. And what I was talking about the guys with earlier, you've only fought 4 guys in your entire career with losing records. So tell us a little bit about your, your fight style and your career so far.
Well, my style is, I think it's different from light heavyweight because I can move and I feel great in this division. And I think it'll be a great fight December 18th with this guy because he comes forward and I don't know. I know how to stop him.
Right. And when did you first start boxing?
Well, I started when I was 12 years old in Mazatlan, Sinaloa.
Mm-hmm. And did it happen because you just were in that environment where everybody boxed, or was it because you wanted to learn how to fight because you were getting picked on or something, like you hear a lot of people do?
Well, I just tried to know how to fight because we used to fight a lot in the streets.
Yeah.
And I came to gym to know how to fight and beat the guy in the street. But as soon as that I know,
awesome.
They didn't fight me, and then they call like bully. But
yeah.
Yeah.
It goes the other way, right?
I think at that time it was. Yeah, it wasn't bully that time because we used to fight because we like it.
Yeah.
And sometimes nothing to do, and then we went to different neighbors, and they tried to fight with us, and it was a good young age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so Gilberto, you first came on my a couple of years ago. I'm a Philadelphia guy, and I know one of your former opponents, Jesse Hart. I know him. I've been to a couple of his fights in Philadelphia. So I first fight with him, and I was telling Rich, before we got you on, that when you scored that knockdown in the second round, we thought it was fight over. And very close competitive fight. You won the decision on that one. You beat him in a rematch. And then I'm looking at some of the other guys that you fought. Guys like Tommy Carpensi, who I know. Sullivan Barrera, who's a very good fighter out of Cuba. You stopped him in 4 rounds. And right now, that puts you right in the middle of a very competitive division. Light heavyweight is one of the divisions to be in right now, with guys like Canelo Alvarez possibly coming up. You got Artur Beterbiev, Joe Smith, a lot of good names out there that you can put some competitive fights with. Any of them spark any interest in you?
Well, I would like to fight all of them because I know that I'm better than them, and I have better skills, and I've been put a great performance, and I've been fighting the fighters that they've been fought before, and like Sullivan Barrera, no one stopped him like me, and I think it made me feel really confident because I know that I have the potential to become a world champion, and this is my opportunity because this is for a title eliminator, and that's what made me so hunger and make me feel happy for that too.
Awesome.
Very good.
And what do you love most about the sport of boxing?
What I like?
Yeah.
Well, I like the people. I like the environment to feel on the ring. When I step in the ring, the people is really the environment is really nice, and I feel the the weight when I'm in the ring is like really emotional and really passionate. I like to feel the adrenaline to have someone good in front of me. That's what I like.
All right. Yeah, Tony talks a lot about that. Almost every interview, he's got to ask that one question, right, Tony? About that moment when you're getting ready for a fight.
Exactly. I always would say I would transform when the hands got taped. Before that happened, you had that, you'd laugh and a little bit. When the hands got taped, it was almost like, like putting on the game faces, I would say. And that always, meant something to me. And I always, every fighter I talk to, when do you have that mental transformation? Some people, it's when they walk in the arena.
Well, when I step in the ring, it's like my mind changed, and I just wanna hurt the people, and I wanna won no matter what, and that's what I feel. Everything everything passed through my mind, and it's such a great feeling for me.
Now, you fought a lot of tough guys. I'm going to ask you a question that's probably the same guy as the answer, but it's kind of a two-part question. Maybe it's two different people, but what was the closest you ever came to having that 0 become a 1? As in, your first, the closest you came to losing a fight, and who was the toughest guy you ever fought?
And all the guys are being toughest, but I think the most important is myself, because I've been up and down in my life, and I put it this way. Before I was thinking like, you have a great guy in front of you, really prepared, and then you think it's the challenge, right? But it's not. The challenge is fight yourself with yourself, because you have to wake up early. Sometimes you don't want to go training. You don't want to do sparring.
Oh, yeah.
And you want to eat healthy. You want to go party. You want to do something else, but you can't, because you have to do this, because legacy is your life, and you have to you have to become a role model for all those kids that they believe in you, and you want to let that legacy in your life. And I think that's the best, the most important, and being healthy to your mind, because I've been passing in the dark side, like depressed and anxious, and that shit is crazy, and that's what I feel like. Okay, I'm really prepared. I find myself, and this is not only for me. It's not only ego. It's because I want to help people. I want to prove myself, and I want to prove to the people that you can do whatever you want, whatever you believe. You can.
Yeah, it's like the old saying, you can't be in it for the money. You have to have something behind it more than that. And, a lot of people that do great at it, they have whole communities, whole countries in some cases, pulling for them. And, it's a very important motivator. But that's a great point. One of the best points I think we've ever had made on that question. Because it is sometimes you're your worst own enemy. Because, everybody's mind is different.
Yeah,
but,
because sometimes you have a bad thought, and you're thinking, like, even in your partner, in your wife or something, you're thinking, oh, she cheated on me, what she's doing, do this. It's all, everything is your mind. Is because it's your mind. Is not her. Is you that you. Right. You have to think it yourself first, and then if you're good, you can be good around to everyone, and you can help anyone, right? But if not, how you can help people like that? Even you can have a fight like that if you're not good.
Right. Now, who are your role models growing up? Who brought you into the sport, or who did you always have to watch fight, and who did you look up to?
Well, I used to Oscar de la Hoya and Julio Cesar Chavez in YouTube, and I think it was because I want to know how to fight, and that way I get into boxing, and before I didn't think I want to be a world champion. I was thinking like, okay, I just want to know how to fight. I want to do some fights, and then as soon as that I make, I was like, okay, I don't have to work. I need to make some money from this, and I like it what I'm doing, and I want to keep going. I become champion one time, and I was like, damn, but I didn't feel like a champ at that time. So like, it was just for money, and then I started falling in love with this sport, more passion, watching boxing more often, and then I felt like, okay, this is what I want to do, and eventually now I do it because I love it. Before it was because I just want to make money from that.
And now that you're building this undefeated record, how much pressure does that add, if any? And what's your secret? If you had to pick one thing that you do, what's your secret to staying undefeated?
It's not a secret. It's just wake up early, training hard, training 3 times a day, and be smart in the ring. That's it. And just have to be like, be healthy, training good, eat good, like be dedicated in what you do, and that's it. And be smart and hit and don't get hit.
That's a very important one. Yeah, I was a defensive fighter when I was in college as a boxer, so I love that mentality: hit and don't get hit.
And I was an offensive fighter.
Yeah, it's very hard to do, but if you're good at it, you're good at it. And some of the undefeated fighters that you're creeping up on, matching their records, we were talking about earlier, one of them, Rocky Marciano, of course, 49-0. Floyd Mayweather, the big 50-0. Have you watched those guys? Have you learned about their careers and how they got to where they got?
Well, I've been watching them, and I want to get a 55-0, and that's one of my goals too.
Wow.
And I think it will happen eventually.
Well, I believe you'll be in special company there because there are not too many undefeated southpaws that got to the level that you've gotten to. And you are still a southpaw, right? You haven't changed.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so I did research before the interview on that because I was curious myself. And Joe Calzaghe is probably the number one undefeated.
Yeah, that's right. He was what, 42nd though, right?
Yeah. And he retired that way though. So that was one of the things that Rocky Marciano was made famous for, not just because he went 49-0, but because he retired undefeated as the champion. So that was what Floyd was trying to beat, and that's why he was always comparing himself to Rocky when he was trying to beat the 49-0. But Tony and I have the luxury of probably knowing everything there is to know about Rocky Marciano. So if you ever have a question on the guy, no. But I've actually written some stuff that's been in a book, or has been referenced in a book about him.
Okay. How can you do Rocky Marciano, who, like, who would like to in this era? Who would like to see him fighting?
I would love to see what he would have done with either George Foreman or Mike Tyson in their primes.
Yeah, both would have been really good. One of my friends who just passed away a couple years ago, he was an older gentleman. He trained with Rocky when they were in their 20s, back around 1947, 1948. And he would tell me before he passed away, he would say, you would never, ever see someone in the gym with that type of effort, ever. He goes, I worked hard, and he put me to shame. And that's what he would say. Then he would tell stories on how he would fight as somebody that had so many disadvantages with height, reach, natural speed.
He was 185 to 189 most of his career, and as a professional and fighting at heavyweight. I mean, not a lot of people weighed less than him. I'll tell you that. At that weight.
No, I don't remember anybody weighing less than him. If maybe by a pound, maybe.
Yeah. So.
But there was a guy who had a real tight defense. He couldn't get through his guard. He went through it, broke the guy's arms, knocked him out. My uncle was at the fight in Philadelphia in 1952 when he won the heavyweight title, behind on the cards against Jersey Joe Walcott. He hit him so hard with a right hand, my uncle said it sounded like a shotgun went off in the arena. Those are just, and when, we got to meet his family and, see his statue dedication, and it was, it was powerful. That's the best word I can use to describe it. It was a powerful moment.
But Gilberto, I got to tell you, when you were talking earlier about, all the people that are pulling for you and getting up early and, all that stuff, it reminded me a lot of Rocky's story, because when he was winning all these fights, people were betting their houses on him. They were paying mortgages on bets that he would win these big fights. And he literally had like the whole town of Brockton, the whole state of Massachusetts, and all of New England really pulling for him back in those days. And it was just a big part of who he was. Because back when he started, it was just a local kid that he knew that was kind of like the coach of everybody, even in baseball when they were kids. They got together and he said, why don't you try fighting? And so he started fighting, and he literally started from nothing. And he had more of a baseball talent than anything, and just developed into this crazy good fighter just from hard work and mostly running. He ran like a unbelievable amount. We had one guy on the show who was like one of his best friends. He's died since, but years ago we had this guy on the show, and he talked about how Rocky and he used to run from Brockton, Massachusetts to Providence, Rhode Island in dress shoes, like like you'd wear with a tuxedo.
Yeah, that's right.
And then they would hitchhike back, but unbelievable. I mean, what you didn't really have that much to do back in those days, but still, that's a feat.
Yeah.
Always running. And he got in trouble even on his honeymoon, I believe, because he woke up his wife and he was putting on his running shoes. He wouldn't even take a break for his honeymoon. He was going for a run. But anyway, getting back to your career, what would you say is your ultimate goal with all of it?
My ultimate goal?
Yep.
Well, I have different goals. I want to get all the belts in light heavyweight, then move up, breachweight, 190, then cruiserweight, heavyweight, because I'm tall and I've been sparring with a heavyweight, cruiserweight, and I think I have the power, I have the skill, and one of my main goals is be a legend and to help people, because I used to, when I grew up, I was so poor, and people helped me a lot when in my neighbor, and now I have my foundation there in Mazatlan, from where I used to live, and I like to help a lot of kids and any help.
That's awesome. It's one of those things that I miss about the older days where, the heavyweight champion was more active, and stuff like that. And there was always like a big charity angle to something that they were doing. And you don't see enough of that in boxing these days. Sad. That used to be the big thing. The heavyweight champion, he's a big example, so he's going to go all over the world and, do great things in addition to boxing, but not so much anymore. I don't know. Although, Tyson Fury has done a lot with giving his money to the homeless and stuff.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's probably the only example I could think of, really.
I mean, with it, I think we had to help things, buy things, money, clothes, food, anything that we can provide to people in their help, and we had to do it.
Yeah.
And right.
That's great.
We have to give love to people with love, and that's it. To give love, to teach them how to do like the thing, and become a role model, and be a great in something that you do, and help a lot of people. And the most important, help yourself all the time.
Awesome. Well, we haven't heard from our psychic yet, so I'm going to open up the floor to Mr. Padgett.
Well, you guys have asked such great questions. I have a few observations, Gilberto, but first off, congratulations on the success you've had. Just an outstanding career. And your mindset and your work ethic. Because a lot of fighters say, you ask them to describe their style, and they'll say, I'm a boxer. But very few really are in that true sense. From what I've watched from you, you are. Because I was so impressed in that when you got him in trouble and you didn't overcommit. You were thinking, I could just tell, you were thinking every step of the way and just did it the right, went to the body. When you have someone really in trouble, you don't want to go head hunting for them. Because they move their head, but the body doesn't move.
Yeah.
And it's just I just can't say enough about it. I mean, my crystal ball is just saying all kinds of good stuff here for you. I mean, God damn it, because I think you're confident, but not overconfident. You just believe in yourself. And in the mindset, as you know, level you're fighting at, boxing is 3/4 mental at your level because everybody's good. Everybody's in shape. And the mind, so much. And from what I can see and feel, the sky's the limit for you, sir. It really is.
Thank you.
And just one question, as far as training methods, we have fighters that do a lot of the old school stuff, and then there's all kinds of new ideas and machines and stuff. So how do you feel about training for your fight? Are you more just with the traditional stuff, or do you try some new things? How do you approach it?
Well, I'm just I do a traditional stuff, and the only thing new that I change is read more and keep my mind busy, and meditate, and then do yoga. And the only thing that I do different from other fighters, but I train hard and I use medicine ball. Strength, condition, run, sparring, everything, all traditional.
Awesome.
Well, that meditation and yoga, it explains a lot of your mental abilities in here. And right now, I can see just light change success. Keep doing what you're doing, and the sky's the limit. I can't wait to see you in your next fight. And if you win the road.
Thank you so much. And the thing is, you have to find yourself, and in meditation, you have to think about yourself. And sometimes we didn't think like we won. We just going for one goal and that's it, and we don't think anything else, and we lose our path, and then we lose our life, right? And but you have to continue be focused all the time. And like you say, limit, and there's no limit, and the limit we put ourselves at the limit, and that's why we have to spend all the time and do whatever we want, and I mean be healthy, and I think help me on meditation.
Well, you know, for such a young man, you have a maturity long, way beyond your years. You know, it most people, you know, quite a few years to get to that level. So that's very impressive. So I just can't wait.
All right, Gilberto. We're coming up on a half an hour.
December 18th. You want to be excited?
I want to give you an opportunity before we go to just sell anything you want to sell. Tell anybody where you are online, where they can find you, and if, like you said, you have a foundation, right? If you want to tell people about that?
Yes. I just want to say thank you, everyone. Thank you for your support, and don't miss the fight December 18th. You want to be an exciting fight, and you can follow me. Yeah, Zurdo Ramirez, and I like to be busy all the time there, and anyone can want to help with, they can send me a message there sometime. I answer by myself when I can, and that's it. Thank you for your support.
You're welcome, and you know, we'll definitely be following you and keeping an eye on your career as you move up the ranks, and you know, definitely. Already, you remind me a lot of the Rocky Marciano story. You know, you're just the Mexican version, right?
Thank you.
But you know, maybe the heavyweight championship is in your future, and maybe you'll really match up to him there.
Yep.
You never know what the future holds, but that's impressive that you're already in the light heavyweight and making your way, but you're already thinking about heavyweight.
Thank you.
But yeah.
Thank you.
Keep gaining weight, I guess. You're going that route. I don't know if you can do it at Rocky's weight nowadays. 189 to 195.
Well, I don't know if I can do it at his weight, but I will do it to my.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's been
Thank
great.
you.
It's been great chatting with you, and I'd say I wish you luck, but I know you're not going to need that, right?
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. My crystal ball has a big W lighting up on my crystal ball. I see big W. Okay.
Thank you, and wish me success all the time.
That's it. That's it.
All right, you have a good night, Gilberto.
All right. Bye. All right, see you later.
There it is.
Very good, very good. You know, we didn't miss a beat, you know? We haven't done an interview in a while, but we were all three of us were on point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I mean, I just love the questions you guys were asking. Just set everything up, then I could just come in and feel like the relief pitcher, shutting them down in the ninth inning.
Closer.
Yeah. But what I'm telling you, this is exciting. I mean, this guy really has a shot. He's like you said, Tony. This is a stacked division.
It is. I mean, it's a division. Like, if you win a couple fights, you know, and like that win against Sullivan Barrera, that's impressive because you know he's a top caliber win over Joe Smith, and he's no cheap date. And this guy made him look like a cheap. And like I said, he has the 2 wins over Jesse. Tough competitive fights, which is good because you know you're not getting in there and getting easy wins. You're getting tough wins where you got to dig down a little bit because sometimes when you need to dig down, you need to know that something's there, and he's already proven that. So, like I said, he's full competency. He's a very talented fighter. He knocked him out. I remember watching that one. So, I mean, any of them fights can line up. I know right now getting a Canelo fight's going to be hard because, Canelo is the cash cow right now, and he's looking for, like, the big names. Gilberto's got to do is he's got to get one of those other guys on his mantle. He's got to get a Beterbiev on there. He's got to get a Joe Smith on there. You get somebody else on there and get people to stand up and say, yo, this is a guy I want to see. Especially if he takes out a guy like, he fights a guy like Beterbiev and really put that name on his ledger. Then it's like, Canelo could say, hey, this is good. And a Mexican versus Mexican fight, that can really sell down to maybe like a Texas, like San Antonio or somewhere, fill up the Alamo Dome. Hey, he gets a big name on his ledger. That could be a Cinco de Mayo weekend kind of deal, hope.
Yeah, well, and then you never know what's going to happen with Canelo either. Maybe Canelo will go up to that weight too. Eventually. Yeah,
well, I know Canelo talked about it. He had the fight with Kovalev 2 years ago, and then he's been back down at the super middleweight. But he's already been exploring the Beterbiev options, so he's not opposed to taking something at light heavyweight again. He was talking about taking cruiserweight, if I last heard correctly.
Well, yeah, I think that's pretty much confirmed now. That's a whole other story.
And one person that he will not have to worry about. What's his name there? Just drew a blank, but Deontay Wilder. Apparently, there's some stories going around that he is thinking about retiring after the Fury loss there.
I heard that.
Doesn't seem much
did you post that?
future.
Maybe I know I saw that somewhere.
Oh, it was all over the boxing alerts on Google this week. So it was a big story. I mean, the last couple of days, actually, more than any other days. It just kind of it makes sense, though. I mean, what else is there now for him? He's kind of been defined by these two fights, and like all his weaknesses have been exposed. Over these last couple of years, especially.
And you know what? It's like with Deontay now. It's like a good point. It's like where go from here.
Yeah.
I mean, do you take a fight with a guy like, just for argument's sake, like an Andy Ruiz who's trying to get himself back? Do you take a fight with AJ, Anthony Joshua? Because he's on the Usyk. I mean, and the last I heard was Fury is being ordered to fight Dillian White, mandated by the WWE. So I think, if I'm correct, Usyk and AJ, I think, have a rematch clause. So that ties both of them up. Now is going to be fighting Fury. So now it's like, who else, it's like, okay, you have a couple contenders that are rising up the rank, but would they be willing to take a risk against a guy who's such a dangerous puncher like Deontay? Somebody like Frank Sanchez. Very good, I think Cuban, very good fighter. Just beat F.A. Jagba, the undefeated Nigerian fighter, and he handled him over 10 rounds. But does a guy like Sanchez say, yeah, let me take this risk against a big name, but sometimes you'll have, high risk, high reward. Sometimes you'll have low risk, high reward. Deontay Wilder's high risk because of his punching. You can take, guys like later in their careers that had big names. Argument's sake, a guy like Evander Holyfield. Holyfield was one of the greatest of all time. But as his career progressed, and he was, slowing down, he had a great name, but he was never a good puncher. He wasn't, really willing and able to decapitate you with one punch. So he was kind of later in his career a safe option. Guys like Chris Bird, James Toney, near the end of Holyfield's career were jumping on him. This is a, low risk, high reward type of fight. Deontay Wilder is not low risk just because of that right hand. He's sloppy as hell. He's very beatable, He's damaged goods, but he's dangerous.
Well,
you risk a prospect against him?
Tony, I think you named it with Andy Ruiz, because Ruiz is there to be hit, and be an interesting fight for Wilder. I think it's very winnable for Wilder. But
absolutely.
If the dream matchmaker, that's the fight I'd like to see, because if Wilder loses that one, well, maybe that says a lot. He'd stop Ruiz, well, he's right back in the game. Because remember, his weaknesses have been exposed against Tyson Fury.
Right.
Who else? I mean, just because someone, after all, he beat Foreman, he says, I don't want all you other guys think you can do the same thing.
The other guy that really, in a way, exposed him was the other Cuban boy. Luis Ortiz.
Yeah, right. I mean,
if you go back and you look at both those fights, that first fight, Ortiz was winning like the first 4.5 rounds. He gets fifth, and then he hurts Wilder bad, and I think it was the seventh, where like they might have been a long between rounds when the doctor was checking Wilder out. That might have gave him enough time to recoup, and then he scores the knockout in the 10th, and then the rematch. Ortiz was winning the first 6.5 rounds, but you could see he was starting to get a little bit tired. He's probably closer to 50 than he is 40, over 50. And then, he started to, and he stood still for 1 second, and that right hand caught him. Boom, and that was the fight. But in both of those fights, I mean, that was a total of 17 rounds, and you figure Wilder lost 15.5 of them?
Right. Yeah, exactly, and that's the fascination for this Ruiz fight. How is Andy going to hold up if he gets clocked? How is he going to fight? Because Ruiz is not a move guy. He has to come forward.
I mean, he's quick. He's got quick hands, but he's hittable. I mean, you saw even in that first fight with AJ, he had to climb off the canvas.
Right. So that would. I hope Wilder keeps going, but again, that's up to him.
Yep.
After that top tier of heavyweights, is there a middle tier right now? I mean, we got our top tier, and we'll be up there because his last 2 fights were heavyweight championship fights. You have your top tier of Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, Alexander Usyk, Dillian White. Andy Ruiz is kind of like that middle tier. But then it's like, who else is the top tier? You have guys like Chris Arreola, he's faded out. I was watching his fight with Ruiz last night. It was on the Spanish channel. But who's that middle tier anymore? I mean, Luis Ortiz, he's still fighting. I would have to say you'd have to look at maybe some guys like, what was the boy that cut Fury real bad?
Otto Wallin.
That would be a good fight for Deontay. Well, what do you get, an emergency alert? But I think Otto Wallin, he's like that. I think he's at mid-level right now.
Right. Exactly. And then the other guy that just beat the babyface assassin, the Polish.
Oh, right. Hamlet or something, or
the Viking. The
big Swedish guy.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. So there's a mid tier, and
Robert Helena.
Right. And then the babyface assassin may be done mentally.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if he would. I guess if he'd win a few fights, maybe he'd be a middle tier guy too. But right now, I think he's going to have to reevaluate everything.
Yeah, because there's 2 fights against Helena.
Because Wallin was signed for the fight with Dillian White. Boy, and imagine how he feels. because Speedo won that, there's his money rematch with Fury.
Right,
which he was very competitive. That's the only loss he's had. So he's, and it just seems like there was a little bit of dirty pool in that whole thing. But my observation, as far as him getting with Dillian and White, and then all of a sudden, that's boxing.
All right, well, we got to talk about the big 269, UFC 269. We briefly mentioned the main event earlier, Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier. And while you two were going over your heavyweight picture there, I was doing a little Rain Man computing over here. The MMA Rain Man I'm going to be on this one. And just looking at Charles and Dustin's record here, and just one thing that really stood out. I mean, they both have just tremendous lineups of just the best names in the division and in the sport that they've fought in the last, let's say, 4 or 5 years here. But the thing that impresses me the most about either one of them is Charles Oliveira, with all the names that he's faced. He has a streak going back to 2017 was his last loss. TKO from elbows to Paul Felder back in December of 2017. So 4 years going, he's been on a win streak. And only one single fight on that win streak was not a stoppage. That was Tony Ferguson back in December of last year. But he's had a bunch of submissions and 3 TKOs or KOs in that period. Michael Chandler among his defeated, that was the last one. Just 19 seconds into the second round, he TKO'd him. That was a big one. Tony Ferguson, like I said before, that was his only decision. Submitted Kevin Lee, knocked out Jared Gordon, knocked out Nick Lentz, submitted David Tamor, submitted Jim Miller, submitted Christos Giagos, and submitted Clay Guida in the first round. And he's only been to the third round recently. Since Clay Guida, he never got out of the third round until Kevin Lee. So that's 2 years without getting.
So I think it's a safe assumption that he has fixed a few of his weaknesses from a few years ago, and right now, this game.
Yeah.
Everything's going both on the feet. I mean, his jiu-jitsu was never questioned, but he has knockout power now, and he's the underdog. He's the underdog Saturday.
Yeah, I like him though.
That you think, huh?
I really like his chances, and I look at Dustin's record, and I love him because he's, like I said, he's trained by a Norwich graduate, and I know his work ethic is incredible. But I mean, I just look at Conor McGregor, back-to-back fights in 2021. He spent his entire year fighting one guy, and that's just like from July 10th to no, that can't be right. Yeah, January 23rd last year. This year, he fought Conor, and then July 10th he broke his leg. So. And then before that, Dan Hooker, who is not necessarily a huge name. You know, he's obviously a very talented fighter, but not as big as some of the names that I just listed on Charles Oliveira's record. And he does have a more recent loss, of course. It is to Khabib, but Dustin has tasted defeat within the last few years, whereas, you know, you got to go all the way back to 2017. Lucky some well-placed elbows. To see his. Max Holloway is probably the biggest name other than Conor on Dustin Poirier's record, and he did win a unanimous decision against him, which is very hard to do. That was back in 2019. Eddie Alvarez came over from Bellator and did not have a very good go in the UFC. He just ran right into some brick walls. Obviously tougher competition than he was used to. And then Eddie got TKO'd in the second round there. And then Justin Gaethje before that is probably the most impressive one for me because that was a 5-round fight and it ended in the 4th. So that was just a crazy war. And that's back in 2018. And that was right after a fight with Anthony Pettis where he submitted him in the 3rd round. And then a no contest with Eddie Alvarez before that, which was obviously rematched. And then the common opponent, Jim Miller. If you want to do common opponent math, if you're one of those type of people, Dustin fought Jim Miller in February of 2017, won a majority decision. Charles Oliveira fought Jim Miller in December of 2018 and submitted him. So, by rear naked choke. And that was just 1 minute and 15 seconds into the first round. So, common opponent math, if you want to do it, will tell you that Charles Oliveira wins this fight. I don't know if it's going to be by knockout. It could be his second decision in the last 4 years. But if I had to pick one of these guys in my main event, I would pick Charles because I think he's way more likely to get the knockout. But Dustin Poirier, I would not put it past him to get a hard-fought decision. And if this goes to the cards,
it's great matchmaking. It's a fight that has to be made. But remember, when you get that world-class belt, you automatically improve. What is it? 20%?
Yeah.
Something? I don't know. You get my drift there too.
Yeah, and it's not an easy belt to keep these days. It's certain fighters, certain divisions. One of the ones in the co-main event, of course. There's certain people that are able to continuously make successful title defenses, but it's not like it used to be. It's harder and harder to do that these days. But like I said, Amanda Nunes is in the co-main event, so she's the exception to the rule. 21-4, fighting Juliana Pena, who's 10-4. Pena was really rip-roaring and ready to go when she came out of the Ultimate Fighter. She had a big knee surgery, and she's kind of been back and forth since then. So I don't know. I mean, you throw anybody against Amanda Nunes, and they have a prayer's chance, but there's not much. There's not much you could say to convince people to put money on an underdog, any big money in these fights. So I don't know. If anybody had a chance, I don't know.
Well, I mean, Rich, I think you have to look at it this way. Amanda is operating on an entirely different level.
Right. Yep.
And I mean, you never want to say never. I mean, Buster Douglas drove that point home. But, I mean, it just seems like... And Amanda's even looking past this and demanding that Dana gets some of the... Well, there's really only the women in the other organizations. I guess Cyborg, she'd like a rematch with her. And, of course, the big 800-pound gorilla, Kayla Harris.
Yeah.
To welcome that fight. Yeah. And that's what I think Amanda's just getting bored.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if anything, that's... she's just on such a different level.
Well, who knows? It could be a miracle. We could witness
find out.
Juliana Pena walking on water this
That's
weekend.
what it's going to take. Yeah, that's
we'll see.
Going to take.
The jury's still out on that one. Anyway, Jeff Neal is also on this card, 13-4, fighting Santiago Ponzinibbio, who's 28-4. We got Kai Kara France, 22-9, fighting Cody Garbrandt, 12-4. And it's going to be a very big fight for Cody to see if he can get himself back in the mix and back in the winning column. Sugar Sean O'Malley on the card. He's 14-1, fighting Raulian Paiva, 21-3. That ought to be a good one. Josh Emmett, 16-2, fighting Dan Ige, who is 15-4. Pedro Munoz, 19-6, fighting part-time commentator Dominic Cruz, 23-3. And I didn't read the article, but I saw a headline the other day that Dominic Cruz mutes the show, the UFC cards, when Daniel Cormier is commentating. Because I didn't realize they had any kind of beef, but apparently they have a beef. But
now, is Cruz done with the commentating gig?
I don't know. I would imagine if you're criticizing your co-commentator, that probably is not a good deal. Because you might have to work with that guy, or maybe he has it in his contract that he doesn't work with him.
And see, now that I think of it, I haven't heard him behind the mic, and it's been quite a while. I mean, I've been paying attention to it that much, but now that you bring that up, I didn't know when he said that. I mean, that means he's probably burnt the bridges. You know?
Yeah, he said something like he doesn't do his homework. Is what the comments I read. I didn't read the entire article, but I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, if you really want to be doing that gig, you probably shouldn't be criticizing your fellow commentators. You know.
Yeah.
Anyway, bad form. Augusto Sakai is in the 8th fight of the night. 15-3-1 is his record, fighting one of my favorite guys to put in my lineups, Tai Tuivasa, 12-3, because he's usually an underdog, but he packs some power. He's a dangerous heavyweight. Bruno Silva, 21-6, fighting Jordan Wright, who's 12-1. Andre Muniz, 21-4, fighting Eric Anders, who's 14-5. Miranda Maverick, 9-3, fighting Aaron Blanchfield, who is 7-1. Alex Perez, 24-6, fighting Matt Schnell, 15-6. And Crazy Ryan Hall, who will tumble over and get you in a leg lock if he can. He is 8-2, fighting Derek Minner, who is 26-12. And he's going to need all that experience to figure out what to do with those crazy little tumbling defenses or approaches there. I don't know what you want to call it. This guy, Tony, literally will just drop on the ground and roll at you like a tumbleweed. Try to grab your leg. I don't know if he's going to continue with that style after the last fight. It was a disaster. But anyway, Randy Costa's in the second fight of the night, 6-2, fighting Tony Kelly, who's 7-2. Then we got a female fight leading off the card, Jillian Robertson, who is 9-6, fighting Priscilla Cachoeira, who is 10-3. So yeah, it's a stacked one. And one thing about the FanDuel lineups, it's really teaching me a lot more about the UFC fight lineups, the roster in general. And you actually get forced to watch every single fight, because you got skin in the game, because even if you miss a couple fights, as far as when you put your lineups together, you probably, if you want success, you're gonna have to put like between 3 and 5 different lineups together to get one to win. And even then, it's very hard to get all knockouts, which is what it takes to get the big prize. So I do end up watching just about every fight, every chance I get to, sit down and watch a card. So that's the benefit of it. And, I'm seeing a lot of different things that will help in the future when I'm trying to pick winners when they get matched up against each other. Like this Manel Kopp guy in the last fight. I will never bet against that guy because I did twice, and it burnt me twice. So, and I think he's got a great talent, but I underestimated him the first fight because the other guy was kicking his ass early, and he did what he did. He does make adjustments, and then he becomes the precision striker that he needs to be, and he finishes fights. And I thought it was a fluke the last time, but he proved this time that, he's for real. So sometimes you gotta, if you're trying to predict fights, especially whether it's for straight betting or, these lineups, you really gotta know. Is this guy for real, or, is this little 3-fight win streak just a fluke? So that's been good. It's a learning process for sure. I've won a lot more NFL contests this year too, just by knowing what is the more likely outcome. Is it going to be a couple field goal kickers that you had to pick, or but I'll tell you, I screwed the pooch on the Patriots the other night because of the wind. I could not pick the winners there.
Yeah, I was getting nervous that one because I had Josh Allen on my fantasy lineup. He put me just enough points to win.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. Power went out for me in that
horrible
game, so I didn't even get to see the rest of it.
All three of his games.
Yeah. Well, it's like Mac Jones had like the most unbelievable QBR rating because he only threw 2 passes and both were complete. Crazy. All right. Well, on that note, we're going to say goodbye. And until next week when we will have another guest, believe it or not. I already have him booked. And it's somebody you're also guaranteed to like, Tony, because he is going to be another Rocky Marciano expert, Mr. John Cameron, who is working on Volume 2 of his Rocky book. I have yet to purchase Volume 1, but this week will give me a chance to buy that so I can put some skin in the game. And
cool.
We'll have him on next week, so we'll be talking Rocky, and it'll be 2 in the morning for him because he's calling from the UK, so we got to be like, we can't be too aggressive. We got to give him time to wake up, I guess.
Okay, I gotcha.
Oh, he'll be all right. But anyway, so that's next week. Yeah, it's good to get back into the interview column today.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, guys.
All right.
Okay, guys. Let's enjoy the fight.
That's all right.
All right, later.